For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Our show is supported by your decision to generously purchase UR Music and Arts signature Il Tenore coffee, which may be purchased at www.urmusicandarts.com. The coffee is in stock and is available for immediate shipment. So there we have urmusicandarts.com. All you go up is to Il Tenore coffee, click on it, and there we have it. There's the order form right there, a nice video with our friend Juan Carlos Echeverri. There he is again. And there it is, also in US currency, $15.66. Pick the quantity you like, add to cart, view cart. There we have 2 of them. And so 3 of them, okay, as many as you like. And the shipping is free for all US addresses. Just go to checkout. And the order form is all in English this time. Should be easy to understand. And we look forward to receiving your orders. Let's take a look at our previous show. Tonight, our featured guest is Julia Bushkova, professor of violin at the University of North Texas College of Music. Julia, tell us about your growing up in Soviet Russia.
Growing up in Russia, in that particular family wasn't really, I should say, anything special. I didn't realize that life could be really different.
How were you able to manage in concentrating? I mean, is it soundproof? Is the living room soundproof that you can isolate your sound and hear yourself? Or is it a conglomeration of all of these violinists playing at different rooms at the same time? How did you manage that?
It wasn't there all the time like this. It would be on certain days.
Then eventually you followed in your mother's footsteps and became a soloist. Is that correct?
Well, yes, but before I went to Moscow Conservatoire, I had to go to school because the system was pretty rigid. You had to go to school. And I worked in Moscow as playing concerts for about a year and a half. She's an example of several people who I think I was able to help beyond just teaching them very well and participating in their life. This girl was the first ever person classically oriented, I would say, or classical interest from Indonesia. I never had a single person from Indonesia. I decided to include me into I think she wrote to 4 or 5 teachers with the request, please help me to prepare for college auditions. I really want to study classical music. I'm from Indonesia. There's no classical music here. For non-musical ears, of course, that is very impressive. Well, I don't necessarily think that high morality and ethics help violin playing. I just think that they help human beings. I get out of it a great personal satisfaction. Yes, because I would like to see my people go and succeed.
Problems in the classical music world today?
Well, the problems really were attendance in the halls. And also, in my opinion, the new compositions that enter the world.
Goodbye, happy holidays, and see you the first Wednesday of 2021. Tonight, our featured guests are Professor Wendy Gadian, course leader for acting and musical theater at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and 2 of her course's alumni, Amelia Muus and Bradley Connor. Also joining us tonight is Professor LINO Rivera of St. Mary's College of California and Professor Niels Muus, director of the Opera Master's Program at the Music and Arts University of the city of Vienna. Wendy, Amelia, Bradley, welcome.
Thank you very much.
How long has it been?
Not yet.
Jesus.
Why am I the one holding this?
I can't sit there and watch my fate get sealed in my own hands.
Can I put it on the floor then?
Whoa, why?
I don't know. It's a lot of pressure. It feels like a tiny bomb or something.
You can't put it on the floor.
Why not?
Random chemical might interfere. Cause some sort of reaction.
Oh, I don't think...
Don't put it on the floor.
Okay.
Oh. This is bullshit.
What was it like?
It was nice to be wanted. To be wanted by someone else.
Did you?
When he asked me up to his room, finally, I was excited, nervous.
I don't want to know.
So, I went upstairs with him. There was a mini bar.
What?
We drank. And when he tried to take my clothes off, I declined. Time is linear. When we die, I think we die. But until we do, I want that time to be with you. Bill. I declined.
Right. Is it going to happen again? Is it?
No. I said I love my husband.
Right, so tell me, which was the first of the Gospels to be written?
Mark, AD 65 to 80. Easy.
Where was the Epistle of Philemon written, and by who? Whom?
St. Paul, in prison. Too easy. It's fun though.
Who was the Gospel of Luke written to?
My dear Theophilus.
Where today?
Modern day Iraq.
Okay. Who sold Joseph into captivity?
Good one. The Midianites.
No, it wasn't. It was the Ishmaelites. Wasn't it?
I think you'll find it was the Midianites.
Was it?
It was, yeah.
Anyway, we'll do a test, and if the parents don't know the answer, the kid doesn't get in.
So, Professor Gadian, Wendy, my question right away is, where's the music theater? Where's the music in the theater part?
Where's the music in the theatre? Well, musical theatre is acting, singing and dancing. And what makes our programme distinctive is that the fundamentals of our training about acting process. So we teach dance, we teach movement, we teach voice, spoken voice, text work and acting process and a significant amount of musical theatre practice, but it's how you integrate that training, how you enable heightened storytelling, whether you're speaking, whether you're singing. How do you shift from speech to song? How do you create the environment where your character can only sing? There's nothing left for that character to sing. And another name for the course might be, why bother singing? Why not just say it? What is your technique and your process and your engagement with your character and your audience as to how you raise the stakes to ensure that your storytelling is truthful and yet heightened when you're singing and dancing as well. So it's a musical theatre programme with acting training at the centre of it. So Wendy, when I read about your program, about your course, it says exactly like you said, it says acting, music theatre. So you've been there since 2013 when you began your tenure there, directing the program as course leader. I started, actually, SIMEON, I started 2008. 2008, excuse me. Yeah, so I created the program. I've been responsible for all the graduates. So this is really your idea of music theatre, more or less. Well, the course leader before me had a very short tenure and unfortunately died soon after he took over the course, Professor Bruce Curl. And the principles around his teaching were very much about an acting training, but the course was only a matter of a year old. So really we had to work from that point on to integrate a process, to find a course of delivery and a way of integrating the training, which really fitted into a professional mold as well, that was recognized as world leading, either in the UK or in the US or indeed around the world. So it was, so what is that training? What makes that different? What are the skills that you need, and what level do you need to deliver them at?
And tell us about your training. Did you have a similar program, or did you learn by to make a program based on what you didn't get when you were studying?
That's an interesting one. My background is as a child at the world famous music school in Manchester, Cheetham School of Music, and I went there from being very young. So I trained as a soloist, as a pianist. I then went to university and at Reading University, but also continued my piano lessons at the Royal College of Music with John Barstow, and then went to the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester as an accompanist, and worked with some of the biggest names in opera, who have subsequently become the biggest names in opera. But I also played a lot of jazz. And I also worked with a lot of actors, and I got invited to take over a show while I was a student there. And suddenly lots of the things that really excited me came into play. And towards the end of my postgraduate, I went to New York as a finalist with one of the Young Musician of the Year finalists at the time, Wendy Picton, for the International Concert Artists Guild, and we played in New York. We didn't get to the absolute final, but while I was there, I had some time off, and I went to the Schubert Theatre to see a musical called A Chorus Line. And I still have that program with me to this day. I was just completely drawn to the storytelling, to the truthfulness of those stories and the brilliance of the musicians. From that point on, I then I carried on doing concerts, but did more and more work in theatre. So I was conducting bigger and bigger shows. I was arranging for shows, but I was also very interested in teaching and voice work. And so I always worked at drama schools alongside my professional career as well. And because I'd worked with so many opera singers and understood that technique, it was very important to me that I was really in tune with the way voices were being trained for musical theatre at that time. And I was very fortunate as a musical director to work with some of the biggest names in theatre at that time. I mean, Anthony Newley, of course, was several generations above me, but I had an opportunity to work with him, with Dora Bryan, with Adam Faith, and with Clive Rowe, Maria Friedman. And what I discovered is that there was a huge amount of talent within musical theatre that never had the opportunity to work in anything other than musical theatre. And I was lucky enough to work with those kind of stars who were regarded as national treasures, I guess, in many senses. Anthony Newley wrote films, was in films. Dora Bryan was in theatre shows. Anthony Newley wrote theatre shows. You know, Maria Friedman, Clive Rowe have appeared in dramas as well as musicals, as well as cabaret. And I knew that there was a huge amount of talent that was not being seen. And so when I had the chance to work at Central, it was an opportunity for me to bring those things together and bring a team around me who were able to, you know, for us to facilitate what we're able to at the moment.
Wonderful. So let's hear from your students. So let's start with Amelia, please. So Amelia, how was it? Where do you come from? How did you get to the school? And what did you learn?
So I'm from Austria. I grew up in Vienna, and with my parents' history and the industry there, and I always was surrounded by music, but predominantly classical music. And it took a while for me to find the love for music because I was so spoiled with it probably, but by the time I did, I realized that more than just the love for music, I found a community where I fitted in for the first time in my life. And I think that's what made it addictive to me. Like I couldn't stop because I had a family and had friends, had people who wanted to do the same things as me. And I grew into it. I did a lot in Vienna, did a lot of like youth theater, and it got to a point where I realized, as much as I felt like I found my community, I realized even within that community, I didn't fit in quite as much as I thought, because musical theater isn't like musical theater is the West End, is Broadway. Do you know what I mean? Like that is where you get all the different varieties, all the different ways of doing musical theater, whereas at home it was a little bit more limited. So I started to think, okay, maybe I should be going to other drama schools. Maybe I should go abroad. One day I randomly in Vienna saw a show. I decided, okay, step out of your comfort zone. I spoke to one of the actors who was from London, and I asked where she was from. And she actually went to Central. And I just said, okay, cool, I'll audition for it, got in. And it kind of just went on from there. And to me, I started as predominantly as a singer. So that's how I found my way into musical theater. And then when I started at Central, I didn't really realize how heavily it is concentrated on acting. And more, as much as I was shocked and like surprised, I just fell in love with it, because you think musical theater is one thing. Musical theater, I think in many people's opinions, is like, you know, jazz hands and high kicks and fun singing and, you know, that kind of stuff. But suddenly at Central, I realized there is a whole lot more behind it if you choose to do it that way. And suddenly it gave musical theater completely new, like, feeling for me, and how I started to sing and how I started to act and how I started to dance. Like, it wasn't just doing a choreography or singing notes and saying the right words, you know. It all connected, and it all was so much more fulfilling and made more sense.
Fantastic. So we had, in August, we had the soprano Stéphanie Morales and Thomas Bulle, who came here to Vienna to do a music theater program for us. And they really showed us how, exactly like you say, they're kind of, it seems like two schools, one focused on completely singing and vocal technique, and the other much more on acting. And that was pretty much Stephanie and Thomas that we had. But they really showed us exactly like you say. I mean, this is very serious material. I mean, this music theater stuff, I mean, is extremely human. I mean, overwhelmingly powerful. When you say that you didn't fit in, that you found your community in Vienna, but then you kind of didn't fit in, what do you mean by that?
I think I was very fortunate to have the parents that I did, and I had a very worldly perspective on art, on life, on what I expected out of what I wanted to do. And I feel like at home, because we have a handful of theaters for musical theater, and it could only go so far. And of course it's growing and it's going through its own development, but I had opinions and I had ways of seeing things and dealing with things that people disagreed with me a lot on. People didn't understand why I felt a certain way about a piece, and so I felt like I wasn't appreciated. I felt like it wasn't, you just know when it isn't the place for you, you know what I mean? And as soon as I did my audition at Central, as soon as I walked into the room and worked with Wendy and the rest of the panel, I was like, this is it. This is exactly where I have to be. It was just
Fantastic.
It was just perfect.
Bradley, is that your experience? You come from, as I understand it, not from a singing background, but from an acting background. What's your experience been?
Yeah, I mean, more of an acting background. Hi, by the way. Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm from London. And yeah, I come from more of an acting background at first. And I did sing, but I sort of sung more for fun. I thought it was a bit of a Justin Bieber sort of lookalike at one point. But acting was sort of what I wanted to take seriously. But when I was auditioning for drama schools, I knew I wanted to do straight acting. I already had an agent at that point. I was working a little bit and I sort of thought, right, that's my direction. But because I knew I could sing a bit as well, when I heard about the course at Central, because I was already looking at Central for all their acting courses, because I mean, that school had Laurence Olivier and Judi Dench go there. I mean, it's prestigious. But when I saw this particular course, because I love singing and the sort of way that they looked at it, I knew that I'd still get the rounded acting training I needed to sort of work in film, television, Shakespeare, but as well, it sort of gave that other string to my bow, I suppose, like that little extra skill set that I can bring into things. And even like film and TV, I'd say is probably my biggest passion, but there's so many musical films now. And actually, when the camera's up that close, it's the narrative and it's the character that really matters. It's not the sort of expansive stereotype or cliche what musical theatre is. It's about the detail and about the intention. And I think that's what the course really specifically focuses on. And I think when I was auditioning for schools, I was lucky enough to get into a few good schools in London, but I just had to go to Central because, I mean, the vibe itself, the sort of the work ethic and the methodology to look at acting and storytelling, I believed in it. Because whether you're singing or you're talking or you're walking, you know, there's a story behind it. There's something to tell, and I just believed in that. And as soon as I started, it clicked. Like, I fell in love with it straight away.
So Bradley, you could, correct me if I'm wrong, you could have attended another school that was just pure acting, where you would have only done Shakespeare, you would have only done that, no music, singing, and you thought that you wanted to have the extra skill set, like you said, so you took the chance.
Exactly. Yeah. Funny enough, a lot of my friends, we all got into a particular school in London, which is really well known, and it's known for its film and TV mainly. And everyone felt, or a lot of my friends and my family felt I was going to go there. But I don't know, I was always up for a challenge. And I think that, especially with the industry, you know, it's not easy to be a performer and it's hard to get work. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to spend 3 years testing myself, I want to challenge myself to the sort of highest standard I can and sort of throw in singing and dancing into that mix. I thought it was a good challenge, and it was tough, but I loved it. It was the right choice.
So Wendy, so it sounds like you have two apostles here who really believe in what you are teaching. Everything you just said, they believe 200%. So tell us about this journey, acting through song, going from spoken into sung, heavy focus on straight acting plays. So what do you look for in your people? Do they have, I mean, nobody has an equal skill set. Some people sing better, some people act better, some people, so how do you fit them all together? How is it that you get them all on stage?
Okay, there's quite a few questions there. Well, the first thing I want to say is that that whilst there's a very significant focus on acting, there is no compromise in terms of the quality of voice production and the way that the sung voice is taught and the way movement and dance is taught. So it's not, we're in a very, very fortunate position where we get thousands of applicants now for this course, and there's no compromise on any of the skill sets. We get people that are like Amelia, first study singers, maybe first study dancers. We have some people that we would view as rather raw talent that have maybe done a few amateur shows. But I think it's really important to stress that it's not about being an actor with a bit of singing on the side. It's absolutely about world-leading training in voice production, but not just sung voice production, spoken voice production as well, so that you're able to connect your technical choices and connect your body into the things that you're doing, whether you're moving, whether you're dancing, whether you're still. It's about being really articulate with your body, articulate and connected with your body and your voice. So that's one thing that's really important about this course, really. It's not an acting course with other things tacked on. They're all taught in equal measure, and much of the teaching from quite early on is already about how you integrate those, how it's not just about learning technique in isolation. Of course you need technique to be able to fulfill what you need to say and the way you need to communicate as an artist. you don't want to be compromised with that, but it's the learning process is about exploring themselves, their body. I would say Stanislavski is one of the fundamental influences, but all sorts of other influences have developed. The other aspect is where the industry is as well, that the industry, as a result of a course like ours and others that have followed, is very much more interested in seeing musical theatre trained artists as actors, as performers, as commentators, whether it's film, radio, any of the digital platforms. So I really feel that it's been groundbreaking in that respect.
Fantastic. So Wendy, but tell us, going back to the wonderful Théâtre music theater program that we had from Stéphanie Morales and Thomas Bulle, Thomas brought up the fact that he teaches, just like you're saying, starting with the speaking and the acting and the storytelling, going to the singing. And his argument is that the singing comes naturally thereafter. But then he said that he also receives a lot of pushback from vocal teachers who say, you know, actually that's not the case at all. And so how do you confront that criticism when I'm sure you're faced with it too?
It depends how you're defining the singing. Yes, I think once an actor is emotionally connected and in tune with where the character is, I think the voice would come naturally. But of course, it's a training program, and also actors need to be versatile. They can't play themselves the whole time. Characters are complex. Characters are not truthful. Characters have inner life, which is conflicting with what they're saying. So you need all manner of techniques and vocal prowess to connect to your breath for a start. Otherwise, you can be triggering all sorts of elements that are about who you are as a person at the point of performance, rather than what your character journey is. So for me, we work very, very closely on vocal technique and spoken voice technique from the beginning. In fact, we start with bel canto. I mean, you know, my background was opera, classical music, and I worked with some of the best teachers and singers in the world, and I sat in those lessons. And boy, oh boy, in current music theatre, do you need a very, very a technique that's strong, but it's also adapted to who you are as an artist and a performer. And there's all sorts of techniques that you can bring to that as well. And you have to do it 8 times a week in the West End. 8 times a week. Yeah.
So let's go quickly before we move on to Amelia, because I want to get Amelia's take on this. Amelia, you're the one who wrote these fantastic notes about how heightened acting, exempla gratia, Shakespeare is influenced by a music theater basis, influenced by a highly concentrated voice training, how heightened music theater storytelling comes from a place of truth. I mean, that's in some intense prose there. So was that your experience when you got to Central? Was that already part of what you wanted to do, or is that what Wendy brought into your formation?
It is everything I did not expect. I did not even know those things existed, because I said I started from a very basic view of musical theater with jazz hands and high kicks, and then I got in there and it was all about just that those were not just empty high kicks, but those high kicks had an intention and a meaning behind it. And I think the big thing is for me with Shakespeare, because I'm not British. I came to a country where everyone is an expert on Shakespeare, and here's little country pumpkin from Austria not knowing anything about Shakespeare. And I think why musical theater is so important to a process like Shakespeare is that the text is so melodic and so rhythmic and has so many different dynamics, and it rhymes, and it is written like a melody. And I think that's what we see it in the industry, that a lot of musical theater actors are now used for a lot of Shakespeare productions, because we understand rhythm, we understand speaking to a very large audience and not being intense, like a very, let's say, like a Chekhov play is very intense and one-to-one, whereas musical theater is so open, invites an audience, and that's exactly what Shakespeare needs.
Understood. And so Amelia, so just tell us a little bit, you're the one who made the nice video selection for us at the beginning. I mean, I find it very powerful. I mean, very powerful what you chose. All 3 scenarios, besides the humorist one, I mean, just grabbed me right away. Tell us about when you first saw that. Tell us about what you think happened there.
So those clips are from our screen acting workshop that we have at the beginning of our final year. And yeah, it is very interesting because musical theater, as said, is seen as a very like OTT kind of art form. And then something like screen acting is so minimal and so intimate and so just to the screen. And I think that is what's so brilliant about what we can learn there, is that you just have the tools and the ability to go into all of those different fields, because at the end of the day, the core of what the training is that whatever you do, however you do it, that it's honest and it's truthful, and it doesn't just come out of the blue. I'm sure you have a big idea on that as well, because you're a screen actor.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, for me, I think everyone would find their different examples on the course of what made them sort of go, oh, I understand this sort of truth of storytelling. And I know for me, sort of coming from more of an acting background, it was sort of connecting why musical theatre was the same way. And it was when it was actually Wendy in my first year played a piece of music from a musical called Carousel. And she just played it for us. And I didn't know too much about music or about instruments or about how composers wrote songs. But once I listened to it and I actually heard that composers themselves write with intention, and they write for the song to have peaks and troughs, and for the lyrics to join with the music, and for the character to, you know, most of the time, a writer will write something in a song purposefully so that character is at a certain point of emotion. And I think once I started to connect that up, I was like, oh, it's the same as text. It's the same as doing text work. But actually, the composer's doing the work for you. He's giving it straight to you, or she's giving it straight to you. And that just excited me. And then I started to learn, I mean, my favourite composer of all time is Stephen Sondheim, who is an absolute legend. And every piece of music he writes, he's literally giving you everything there. And sort of once you learn that, and you learn that, oh, I can sing and dance and be just as honest and and be filled with intention, I think that that's what hooked me in that sense, on knowing what the course was about, knowing why I was there, how I could use that skill even in a Shakespeare play, even on TV. You know, it was so adaptable because it all come from the same place, which was truth, intention. Yeah.
And Bradley, would you be able, before we move on, would you be able to give us a little example of Sondheim or whatever? What is it when you talk about that truth or storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, the best example for me is when I did my audition for Central. I went in with a monologue from Romeo and Juliet, and it was Romeo's famous balcony scene. And, you know, but at that point, I thought I was, you know, this confident actor, and I sort of knew how to do Shakespeare, and I come in with my Shakespeare voice, which was very, you know, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks, it is the east. And straight away, Vesna, who's the head of acting on the course, just went, stop, what are you saying? Like, you don't know what you're saying. And I was like, oh, well, I know what I'm saying. I'm trying to woo Juliet. And she went, well, I can't see you wooing her. You're not, you know, if I was up on that balcony, I wouldn't jump down for you. You know, you have to get me to do it. So straight away she went, well, you're from London. So, you know, imagine you're standing there with, you know, a can of beer in your hand. You know, you're just chilling on the street and you see her up there, and then straight away it just sort of fills you up and you sort of go, right, butt soft. How do you, butt soft? What light through yonder window breaks? Oh, it is the east. And Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon. And that sort of, just the idea of that, William Shakespeare, who wrote that, 400 years ago, you can make that so your own, and it's totally what it means to you. And actually that translates in a song. You know, Stephen Sondheim, his song must have been done, all of his songs must have been done hundreds of times, but in such different ways. And I think once I connected up to that, I think even that piece of sort of direction and looking in, what is your intention in that, I think sort of goes across Shakespeare, modern text, music, the whole lot.
Understood, thank you. So we have an audience question here asking about how the whole course is organized. Maybe you could tell us, Amelia or Wendy or
yeah, I could.
Bradley, how do you like? So we have how is it organized? How many years? How many hours per week? and in the dance course, theater, singing? What's that all?
Okay, well, it's a 3-year undergraduate program. We're affiliated to the University of London, and so you actually graduate with an honours degree from the University of London, which is hugely prestigious. I don't know how much it counts in the industry, but so it's under the auspices of the University of London, but we are a conservatoire. We're about doing. We have up to 40 hours contact time a week, which is just extraordinary for a university, and we need it. And that has to be the case. There's 3 10-week terms per year. As I say, the contact hours for conservatoire is as it should be and extraordinary, with hugely detailed input on the individual. We have thousands of people apply for this course, and we take 18 or 19 per year. And we, obviously things are very, very significantly different in current COVID conditions, but under normal conditions, the teaching starts at 8 a.m. and often doesn't finish till after 6 or 7, irrespective of whether we're in a production or not. So it's absolutely about working in a small group with very significant individual attention. And perhaps one thing we haven't raised either is the recognition by the industry and the engagement of top industry professionals as a matter of course, so that students are well connected. There's, it's quite often that people will come and direct a project or work with students, and then we'll bring them as graduates into their work as well. So from very early on, it's about students understanding their responsibility as artists and connecting with the community that they're hopefully going to be working in as well. So it's intensive and connected to industry.
Understood. So Professor LINO Rivera is here with us. He'd like to ask a question. LINO?
Hello. Hello. It's a pleasure to meet you all, Wendy, Bradley,
Pleasure
and Amelia. I'm here at St. Mary's College of California in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I just we are all affected by the pandemic. And since you touched upon this, I want to ask you, how is your school and how are all your rehearsals and all your classes, how are you adapting to the present pandemic? And what has it done for you to rethink, maybe reprogram, restructure everything that is happening in your school? I want to know know what you think.
So if I can break in quickly, I'd just like to say, as always, LINO, Professor Rivera is right, in tempo, on key, on the right beat. So this is exactly where we're going. Let's watch this video first, and then we will get to that question.
And in a perfect world, a miracle would happen, and every other girl would fly away, and it'd be me and Kathy, and nothing else would matter. But it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I mean, I'm happy, and I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. It's not a problem, it's just a challenge. It's a challenge to resist temptation.
It's me, I'm Kathy, I've come home and I'm so cold. Let me in your window. Heathcliff, it's me, I'm Kathy, I've come home and I'm so cold. Let me in your window. Whoa, there's something going down, like the storm in the sky. Ooh, I ain't gonna be played by your behavior. How can I trust someone who's lying to me? So bow out, go. Now I say bow out and leave. I said take your stuff and go, 'cause you're not for me now. Mama.
In the port of Amsterdam, there's a sailor who drinks, and he drinks, and he drinks, and he drinks once again. He drinks to the health of the whores of Amsterdam, who have promised their love to 1,000 other men. They bargain their
I have a life to please, and no debating. I
more than talk. And when I give him back, he won't be able to walk. 'Cause I'm gonna get me a little something, something, and a little something else, and a lot of something extra, and a great big heap of something, something, something on the side. Oh, 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 oh.
Fantastic. Wendy?
Am I back on COVID? Okay, I agree. It's hugely challenging for performing arts courses. So we went down, we've just gone back into lockdown in London, but we went into lockdown in March. And so what we did was we completely restructured because we were on Zoom, but we had international students who were in different time zones as well. So we could not transplant the timetable. So we focused on our big rehearsals. We cut all the rehearsal time down, and the classes we cut down to an hour because full-time work on Zoom is exhausting for students. We brought in as many varieties in the way that we worked, by self-tape, by video, by more one-to-one tutorials. We tried to make as much variety, but with the big performance projects, directors directed them and we performed them on Zoom. And then in September, when we could get into the studio, we did big catch-ups and we performed the assessed work. Shakespeare, Sondheim, we did Sweeney Todd on Zoom, believe it or not. We had to use some editing just to get around one of the ensembles, but we did indeed direct it knowing we were going to go with social distancing into a studio. And the students and the team around that, it was no production values on it other than lighting. And that's what they did in 2 weeks. Students were so excited and focused, and you will find that, I think, Presley, the same as me, to get in a studio was just paradise, and having worked online as well. And that's what we've done going into the autumn. We had a hybrid delivery, which was half in studio, half online, and we adapted accordingly. We filmed all our performance projects and live streamed them for, not live stream, but had streaming events for industry. Sadly, we're back in full lockdown. So, you know, our campus won't open now till the 6th of April. And to be honest, I've taken confidence from the restructuring that we had before, and I don't think students have been disadvantaged. It's not what I would have chosen for them at all, but their self-taping techniques are wonderful. Their relationship with camera is extraordinary from the beginning. They're flexible, they're adaptable, and they're focused in ways that they might not have been so early in the course. And they're more resilient and realistic as well. And all of those things are very important when you're going into a professional career. So I guess the same as colleagues across the world is like, rethink. Some things are excellent. The showcase we will do online again. We will reproduce that technique in the same way because it got hundreds and hundreds more viewings than we would ever got in a West End theatre in London. So there's positive things come out of that, and we've learned from it.
So tell us, Wendy, about your next production, barring any unforeseen mandates from the government. So this, I understand, this showcase, they were all in their own gardens or whatever, singing outside, trying to stay out of the rain. So what's coming up next?
Well, it doesn't always rain in the UK, but yeah, they were. It was iPhones. That's why we didn't use an accompaniment, so that if some people had less good equipment, and I think it works just as well. We had a fantastic response to that. Our next book musical, our next big show is Spring Awakening, which is being directed by the Broadway director Jamie Armitage, who directed Six. The significant thing about Spring Awakening is it's about touch and connection, and we're heading into a period where we're socially distancing again. So that's been extraordinary in the way that we begin to, in our preparation, how we explore how those journeys and stories can be explored.
Good. So let's ask now, Bradley, tell us a little bit about your experience. What are your projects like right now? Is your life on hold? What are you up to?
Yeah, I mean, it's been hard. It's been hard sort of the last maybe 12 months or so. Obviously, we've been in lockdown, sort of the first lockdown started in March. And I'd been out of work for a couple of months before then. But before that, I'd been involved in some really cool projects after graduating, and things were going really well. But yeah, since the first lockdown in March, it's been really hard for sort of any actor at the moment in London to get any work. But I was lucky enough at the end of last year to get a TV series that I was doing in Madrid, that I did a couple of days of filming on in November. And I was really excited. It's a really, really good part. It's to do with the Catholic Crusades. So it's St. Francis of Assisi and that sort of storyline from the 11th century. But I did 2 days of filming, came back to London, and then got told that production's been completely put on hold for for the foreseeable future, basically. So I did have a job, but it's gone now. But it's okay. I mean, I've just been focusing on sort of working on my skill set while I've been at home. It's a lot of time spent at home, so just working on my skills and lots of self-tapes. That's sort of the main way to audition for everything at the moment, whether it's a musical or a film. It's just loads and loads of self-tapes. So I've become a bit of a self-tape expert, I'd say, over the last year. But besides that, yeah, not much. Just keeping up with my skills and getting myself ready for when the industry does come back.
Bradley, would you be able to give us any sneak peek into this series about the Crusades, about any lines or any?
Yeah, the only thing I can say at the moment is it's called Glow in Darkness. It's a Spanish television company that's basically just opened, called Dreamlight International Productions. It's a great series. It's going to have some great actors. I can say this because it's been let out publicly. There's some great actors, like Joan Collins is going to be in it, Stephen Burkhoff, Denise Richards, Jane Seymour, lots more stars. And yeah, obviously I've done a few jobs so far, but I've not really had any significant roles. And this is going to hopefully be my first sort of significant part. I'm playing the younger brother of the Francis of Assisi, so hopefully it goes well. Hopefully, if it all goes ahead. So yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment when COVID sort of gets out the way, basically.
Fantastic. Let's take a look at a video of Bradley.
John.
What?
How are you? And yourself?
I'm all right.
Good. Because you'd tell me if you weren't, wouldn't you?
You'd be the first person I'd tell.
Even before Jeanette?
Well, considering we'd be broken up for 2 years, you've been moved up the list, haven't you?
Oh, that's very kind of you. She was bad news.
So you've said.
Mum never liked her.
Well, Mum's not here now, so really that shouldn't matter.
Does matter. Matters to me.
Yes, sorry, of course it does.
Matters a great deal to me, what she thinks. What she thought. Oh. Dead mother.
I know, mate. Leave it, yeah?
Do you think she likes how we've ended up?
Don't know.
Helping each other out, looking out for one another, couple of lads, brothers in arms, the camaraderie. Just me, you and the dog.
This isn't a permanent fix, Mick. It's only temporary until we sort things out.
I know,
but... I mean, two fully grown men sharing a bed together, it's not how I thought life would be.
It's only been since Mum...
I know, mate. But that was years ago. It's temporary, Mick.
It's not all doom and gloom, though, is it? I mean, we got our old room back. We got it sussed. You're looking tired, John. I think we should go to sleep, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Good night, John.
Yeah, good night.
Wonderful. So I'd just like to say we only have 10 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, please don't be shy to turn on your microphone and ask Wendy, Amelia, Bradley, question, comment. They're all here for you. So are Professor Niels Muus and Professor LINO Rivera here to answer your questions, hear your comments. Or if you're on Facebook or if on Zoom, you can write a message. They're happy to answer your questions, hear your comments. So Bradley, tell us about this video. Tell us about that role. Where's the storytelling? Where's the truth telling?
Yeah.
This is a lot different than Romeo courting Juliet from the balcony, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a little bit, really. It's a little bit closer to home, that one. Yeah, it was a joy. It was a really exciting project to work on. It's called The Grebel Monster, and it's completely created by graduates off of our course. So it's there was obviously myself, and the guy playing my brother in the bed next to me is a guy called Harrison, who is from the year below me, and the writer and director of it is a guy called Harry Arthur Davies, who's actually 2 years below me at Central, who is a fantastic writer and an even better actor. And he'd written this script while I was in my final year at drama school, and he held a reading of it. And I went and sort of had a listen, and as soon as it finished, I just went up to him and went, "You're giving me that part, by the way. When this happens, I've got that part."
What attracted you to the part exactly? What did you like about it?
It was just a fantastic piece of writing. I mean, he wrote it sort of purposefully for it to be a London voice. So straight away, I sort of got attached to it. But it's the way he writes. He writes very much like sort of the old Monty Python sketches, or it's real. He's so clever, and I think for any actor, when you hear a piece of text that you think you can attach to and that you can go, I can make something of this. And it's the whole story. Basically, I'm not going to give too much away, but it's about two brothers and their relationship after their mum passes. But it's quite a funny relationship, and to look at a storyline like that in quite an ironic way was just so much fun. And because everyone in the room, everyone who was creating it, we were all best friends. We all still are. It was just such a fun process. And to think that with the skills we got off the course, that we were able to come together and create a film was just so cool. And we've got ideas moving forward in the future, again, when COVID's out the way. But for now, that's only it's an 8-minute short film at the moment, but we've got a lot of ideas that hopefully taking it to a theatre, we hope, next. We haven't got any bites yet. We're going to keep pushing. But yeah, so that's how that came about. It was just through Harry and through us at Central, just friends, and decided to put it on.
Fantastic. So I'd like to ask then the three of you, before we go, starting with Wendy, please, what is it your vision of success? Now, we saw in COVID, I imagine it means doing things online, continuing activities instead of giving up, doing whatever you can in the most limited fashion. What is it? What do you wish for your students? What do you wish for the future?
Success to me as a teacher is about supporting young artists who are aware of the importance of their voice within the theatre. That it's what they contribute to a rehearsal room, what they contribute to the world really, but it's never been more important than now for artists, particularly young artists, to have a voice and to feel that they can use that within any kind of theatrical setting, and to tell the stories, to tell the truth, to talk about, to be themselves and connect their storytelling and their journey to move us forward. So that to me is success.
Understood. So we have a question, a comment from Carol Bygart Forte, who is a vocal teacher, and she's here to comment or ask a question. Carol?
Yes, I've been teaching what is called functional voice training for 45 years. I've taught all over Europe. I taught a little bit in the UK. I live here in Canada. I've taught all over Canada. And one of the things that I've noticed, and before I make any further statement, I've I've worked with a combination of opera classical singers and music theater singers. I've taught at Stratford Festival Theatre and at the Shaw Festival for years. One of the things that I've noticed that we as singing teachers really need to address is vocal health. Over these years, I have seen and heard so many individuals with talent, real musical talent, but without sufficient skill to express it. And what begins to happen is the friction in the vocal folds causes little blisters, and those blisters turn into nodules. And the unfortunate part of it is that when that happens, they need to take a rather long vocal rest and re-enter the process of vocal development. So I'm wondering, if you'll excuse me, Wendy, how do you deal with those issues?
In relation to vocal health, I couldn't agree with you more. Vocal health is the first thing that we talk to our students about. It happens in week 1, to be perfectly honest. And we brief students with the singing team and the spoken voice team. So it's an awareness of and a responsibility for vocal health as the training develops. We do start the singing training. We have an excellent singing teacher called Sarah Leonard, Dr. Sarah Leonard, who was quite a prestigious soprano in terms of modern work. But we have found that a really clear understanding of breath and bel canto is an excellent start to any musical theatre training. For us anyway, as a starting point, in terms of often with women's voices, they think they're an alto and they're just pushing the voice up to one break. And it's about understanding all of that range through the passaggio and above. And the same, not necessarily in terms of the passaggio, but in the same, understanding what the instrument is and an ownership of the voice and breath, placing, resonance, and articulation, I would say. And then we move into, through the first year, we move into more forward-placed commercial sounds. But it's about students understanding their own voice and warming up, warming down, and responding, to health issues as they come up. So we're very, very fierce about that, Karen, very.
Fantastic. So I have very good news for everybody, which is that Carol Baigat-Forte will be coming on to have her own show in just 1 month. So we look forward to having Carol on then. 2 months, I'm sorry, 2 months. So she'll be on in 2 months, and we will speak almost exclusively about vocal technique and vocal health. Quickly, I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Moving on to Amelia, your portrait, your idea of success. What is it you hope for in the future?
It is actually something Wendy would always tell me over and over again, and that is, it's very easy in the world of social media and whatnot to just see that everyone's like got a big job here and got a great job there, and everyone's doing so well really early on in their career. But it's not about how quickly you get to something, it's how long you can do it for. It's the success, I find, is within the longevity, making it possible for you and for your skill set, constantly training, not stopping to learn every single day, and just being, because it is very, very difficult to be in this industry, and it can be very heartbreaking and can be very detrimental to your mental health and stuff. And if you are able to succeed and do it for your whole life, or at least until you're 50 or 60, I think that is success, no matter on what scale, as long as you can keep that for that time. Yeah. Bradley?
Yeah, I mean, if you'd asked me this a year ago, it'd probably be a very different answer. So, probably I've been out of drama school 2.5 years. So sort of the first year I would have, because I had a bit of a taste of a few jobs, it would be affirmation and acclaim and sort of respect for what you've done. But especially with what COVID's happened, it's just the privilege of being able to tell stories. I think that success is if you can, on a yearly basis, monthly basis, hopefully weekly basis, be able to have the privilege to tell stories in whatever form that is. I think this year has taught me that is what success is. And if I can achieve that, then I feel successful.
Well, Wendy, congratulations. Apparently you've had success already with your students, even if they've only been out of the course for a little while. So that's a great note to end on. Let's see how we can stay in touch with Professor Wendy Gadian. There we have it, the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. And Wendy, I believe people can reach out to you somewhere on this page.
Well, my email at Central will be available on the Central website, and I'd be delighted to connect with people through that.
Okay, wonderful. And how to stay in touch with Bradley Connor. I believe we have some spotlight.com websites here. There it is, wonderful. Look at that with all of his parts and his headshots. So Bradley, there we have your email, office@innovatetalent.co.uk.
Yes.
People can reach out to you there?
Yes, that's the way people can reach out to me professionally. But if anyone wants to sort of just reach out to me for any questions or just to sort of, I don't know, get in touch, then my Twitter is probably best, which is @Brad with 2 Ds _Connor. Twitter would
Write
be
that
the other way
at
as well. It's
Brad with 2 Ds, Connor.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's how people can reach out to you. Wonderful. And Amelia, let's take a look at Amelia's website. There
So
she
again,
is.
this is very the professional contact website, but as well as with Brad, if it's just for questions, just for conversation, just on Twitter, at Amekinu, AMEKINU.
There it is. I'm EKINU. That's for Twitter. Wonderful. So thank you very much. I believe we have a greeting from our friend Juan Carlos Echeverri.
Hello, amigos of UR Music and amigos of Il Tenore Coffee. Today, I don't want to talk about coffee. I wanted to show you that we are working here, making paths and working on this property so that you guys can come at some point and visit us and visit our coffee plantations. So we are working on it, and we hope we will have you at some point coming here, trying our coffee and enjoying these lovely landscapes. So happy New Year and hope to see you soon. Try Il Tenore coffee because we do it with love. We work on it for you guys. Bye. Feliz año.
Well, Happy New Year to you, Juan Carlos. So let's take a look at next Wednesday. We have Professor Arthur Fagan, Alexander Fritze, and Professor Niels Muus, highest level music education around the world. So it's actually a complement to this show about music theater. Arguably, the most elite classical music institutions of today are no longer the opera houses and symphony orchestras found in large metropolitan areas. Some music, quote, academies, Hochschulen, and even, quote, colleges and, quote, universities have grown in relevance throughout the current and previous centuries. Join Professor Arthur Fagan of Indiana University, Bloomington, Alexander Fritze, and Professor Niels Muus of the Music and Arts University of the City of Vienna at a roundtable discussion about these highly competitive schools, their pros and cons, and significance to the classical music industry. As Amelia and Brad said, yes, our guests not only can and do, they also teach. So that's next Wednesday. Arthur Fagan, Alexander Fritze, Niels Muus, highest level music education around the world. So thank you to Wendy, to Amelia, to Bradley. Thank you so much for sharing your talents and your giving us this intimate portraits of you and your success. And we are so happy to be able to celebrate the opening of the year with you. We hope very much to have you back on the program soon.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much to Professor LINO Rivera, Professor Niels Muus, to our superhero production team, and most of all to you, our participants, without whom this program would not be worthwhile. From Vienna, Austria, from London, the United Kingdom, from the Bay Area, California, and the Echeverry Coffee Farm near the city of Pereira, Colombia. Goodbye, and see you next week.